Girls and boys, and welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm gonna be showing you everything I did in order to mix the vocals that you heard in the introduction to this video, which is the cover that I did for this fantastic song by Kamelot called Forever. And it's gonna be fun and it's filled to the rim with information, so stay tuned. Here we go. But before we go, if this is your first time on the channel, I welcome you because in here I show you every single thing I do in order to create, write, produce, and of course perform my music live. Because I know that making a living as a musician is not a dream, it's a possibility. And if I can do it, of course you can do it. With that being said, let's rock and roll. Here we go. Welcome back, girls and boys, to Logic Pro 11. In front of us, we got the project that I used to mix the vocals for my cover of this fantastic song by Kamelot. The first thing that I gotta show you is how I got the backing track, because I actually use one of the new features of Logic Pro 11, which is the stem selector, if I recall correctly, but it's one of the functions that allows you to split the signal of a given sound into 4 different stems, and that allows you to get rid of the vocals, the drums, bass, and guitars. So that allowed me to have access to the backing track in the best of qualities possible, and allowing me, for of course, to sing on top of the backing track. But it came with a caveat. The software removed as well the backing vocals, so that forced me to re-record the backing vocals and to get as close as possible to the original material using my own ears. So this is what I did. The first thing, of course, that I'm going to show you is the sound of my the main vocals, the lead vocals to be precise. I'm going to remove all of my effects because I had plenty of effects that I will disclose to you later on, and it sounds like this. From the night we met till the day you died, do you think I wish? Do you still believe I cried? If you want to see how hard it was for me to sing this song, well, there should be a video somewhere on the screen on which I disclose the techniques behind the singing aspect of it. But I gotta say that when mixing this track, it was harder than I thought, not due to the complexity of the singing. I gotta say that the recording was quite proper, but there are plenty of moments on the song on which you have a high dynamic range. More on that later. First, I'm gonna show you the first element in my chain. I'm gonna use the mixer for that very reason. And the first insert of this sequence is gonna be my de-esser using the SPL. I'm gonna turn off everything but the de-esser, and you can see what kind of use I got for it. From the night we met till the day you died, do you think I wish? It's just controlling the amount of silences and sounds that are normal or natural in our voices. But this had a particular, the microphone that I used have a particularity on the high end that actually added a little bit of an extra edge to that sound that I didn't like. And let me show you this briefly. The fact that I had to re-record the vocals, the entirety of the vocals, means that we got several layers of vocals on top of each other, as you can see. That means that all of those vocals being recorded through the same circuit or the same signal chain will present the same problems. In this case, the extreme S's. So I had to use a de-esser and kind of hit it a little bit hard. It doesn't show that much in the mix, and that's the whole point. Then the next instrument on my mix is, of course, my beloved channel strip by SSL. In this case, I'm using the 4K channel strip because it has the particular sound of the distortion circuit, the preamp. Let me show you how it sounds like. With it. From the night we met till the day you died, do you think I wish? Do you still believe I cry? What is it doing? I'm doing many things with it. The first is, of course, using the filter to cut off some of the low end, the rumble that was part of the recording, cutting off some of the not flattering frequencies on the low mids, and the same happens on the high mids, and using the low mids, the lows actually, the low band to boost a little bit the resonance point of my chest voice. Then I, of course, use the compressor, and you can see that it's just tapping on top of the signals or of the loudest points. It's just capturing those moments, trying to give us a much more even sound. And of course, the use of the fantastic gate, because that way I don't have to cut out, and this is something that people often ask me. why you never cut off or remove or isolate the regions in between takes? That's a great question. The reason why I don't do it is because it sounds much more natural to play a gate in a correct fashion. And as you can see, listen to it. From the night we met till the day you died. It's closing at the right point and using the correct slope, so it feels super natural and musical, and it's not chopped off. Of course, there are points on which you cannot get away with it, but that's what the cutting tool is there for. Now, the next stage would be, one more thing about this. You can see that my equalizer is set to be first before my filters and my dynamics. Why is that? Since I'm not boosting any frequency, I'm just cutting off the stuff that I don't like from the recording of my vocals, and then I am applying the compression. Why is that? Because the next stage is the second compressor in the mix, which in this case is the LA2A, and I'm using this bad boy to tame even further the sound of my vocals in the mix. First, I'm going to show you the sound of it in context, in and out, and then by its own. First, out. From the night we met till the day you die. You can feel that there are some inconsistencies, right? Now, as part of the sound. From the night we met till the day you die. Very much more controlled. You can make the argument that I am not at the same gain stage. That's a possible. That's something that I could agree with you, but it's due to the nature of this kind of circuit. It's not that of a big deal because you can always use the fader to bring back some of the loss. And remember, there is no way to actually compensate other than using the gain and the reduction. So it's part of the trade of this guy. Then this is the secret sauce, the Sie-Q by Soundtoys. Very cool and underrated, in my opinion, equalizer. I am boosting basically everything that this bad boy has to offer. And of course, I use the drive feature to compensate. So you will see. First without, and then with it. From the night we met till the day you die. With. From the night we met till the day you die. It's cutting through, right? Now it feels that it belongs. Of course, it's a little bit more pointy, but now everything feels right. It's no longer been lost amidst the entire mix. That's the whole point of an equalizer. And as you can see, my sequence, it's first controlling, then shaping off and controlling a little bit more. Total control over the dynamics and making sure that it shines through the mix. You have to always use equalizers in the context of the mix. Don't do it in solo because, well, you're using the equalizer to make it shine, right? So that's important. Now, next stage. The amount of effects, it's gonna be quite staggering because the song is actually extremely heavy on effects. I wasn't expecting that, to be frank. And the first is, of course, reverbs. In this case, I got my traditional plethora of reverbs. We got room, hole, and plate, and of course a vocal delay, a vocal reverb specialized for a particular use. I will show you later. But of course, I also have to apply a little bit of vocal delay and flanger in the form of the insta flanger. More on that later. So first, I'm going to turn on the room, hole, and vocal delay, vocal verb, so you can hear the sound of those reverbs in action. From the night we met till the day you die. There's plenty of it, and it's part of the sound. I, personally speaking, I wasn't expecting it to be that wet, but go and listen to the original track and you will discover, or you're gonna realize how full of effects the vocals are. Then, the next stage would be my white effect, which is using my traditional H949, which is the micro pitch, and it's doing a fantastic job. I will show it to you later, but first I gotta show you the effects in question, the reverbs. For my room, I'm using the SP216 by Eventide, which is a great reverb unit. I use it basically on every one of my mixes, and it's giving us this kind of sound. Let me solo it for you. From the night we met till the day you died. Very subtle and elegant sounding. Then the next one is going to be my whole reverb, and in this case we're dealing with the SSL Native Flex. This is a plugin that as soon as I got it, I fell in love with it because it's very, very powerful, and especially when you consider that it's extremely customizable. You can tailor-made it. You can make sure that it fits your mix regardless. Let me show you. This is how it sounds. From the night we met till the day you died. Nice, beautiful, and musical. Now, the last one is my reverb, which is the one that I'm using as an automation. Let me take you there. This section, and automation is the name of this game because it's insane. Take a look at the different amount of automation that I had to do in several sections of the track. This is the one, this region over here is the one that has the reverb, and this is loaded with a black hole unit. Take a look at the screen over here and you will see when the black hole kicks in. It's monstrously big. I'm ready for the day that I'm gone. Badass, right? And that's known as a throw, and this is the point on which I use it. Now in context. Ready for the day that I'm gone. You can see that the release tail fits or fills in the gap between the, or as soon as the vocals are over, you can see that the reverb takes over the lead role. Very cool, and man, it's super musical. Love it. Of course, this is a very over-the-top reverb, and I only use it there. The next section is the white effect, and this guy, it's quite cool because what I'm doing with it is making the sound of my mono voice, my mono vocals, to feel more stereo without having to lose the mono compatibility and the focus of the sound on the mono area of our mix. It sounds like this. Let me show you the plugin. Here it is. It sounds like this. Pay attention to the vocals. From the night we met till the day you died. You might be saying, dude, that's way too over the top. When you do it solo, of course it feels too much, but now in context. From the night we met till the day you died. It makes the sound of the vocals feel more inside of the mix. And if you want to see the whole operation in context, go and watch the performance video. Now, I had to apply a copious amount of humble equalizer to cut off some of the low end that was building up, because I actually devised this sound for the next stage of this operation, which is the gigantic backing track. Let me show you the sound of the backing track as it is, in context first. Plenty more stuff going on, right? Let me show you first the vocals here. It's a 4-layered stereo multi-track that is comprised of 2 takes of the lower register vocals and 2 takes of the same but pitch an octave higher. First the lows, you got something like this. Will you revive from the chaos in my mind? And the second section, which would be the high-pitched. Will you revive from the chaos in my mind? Together. Will you revive from the chaos in my mind? It feels super big, right? What I did here, I of course went straight to each of these individual voices and I mixed them to taste and not copying the same channel strip. Why is that? Because even though I am, it's the same singer singing through the same microphone, it's now playing a different register, and also it's playing, and this is the most important part, it's playing a different role in the mix. So I had to figure out how to place them in a way that fit without clashing with the lead vocals. It's a common problem, and it's something that has happened to me several times when I was developing my skills as a mixer, that I always thought, okay, it's the same singer, it's the same microphone, it's the same everything. I'm just gonna copy the same settings. And what happens? You got just a gigantic mess because you got copies on top of copies of the same parameters on the same material, but playing different roles in the mix. The lead role is for one instrument only, which is the lead instrument. In this case, the vocals. And I had to push my backing vocals to the back. So you can see that each of those guys will have a completely different set of EQs. And it's clear. Why is that? Because I need to fit them in together. All of them are being summed up, and just as a quick reminder, I had to play a different de-esser. Why? This one is much more aggressive, and I was clamping down those S's a little more. All of them are being fed to the master stereo bus. Summing bus for my vocals, my backing vocals, and the first thing that we got in this chain is of course the fantastic SSL native bus compressor, compressing the entire thing, making it fit tight, and then we got the split EQ, fantastic tool. I had to use this guy because I got a weird resonance over here, as you can see, that was building up and annoying the living stuff out of me. Listen to it. I'm gonna back up. I'm gonna bypass the split EQ. See what happens. There is like a little bit of a mask on top of the mid-range, low mids. Now the EQ is in. Now we're talking, right? That's pod racing.
Now this is pod racing.
Now I forgot to mention this. You hear it right. You heard it right now. It's the delay applied to the voice. The main vocal had a lot of delay on the original recording, and it has plenty of filters on the delay. This is the tool that I use for the job. This is the fantastic new iteration of band delays by Eventide, and this is such a cool product because basically speaking, you got several delay points. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way down to 8 different repetitions, and each of them it's gonna be governed by a filter that you can select. This plugin is extremely deep when it comes to the amount of things that you can do with it. I already shot a video on which I take you through the different options that this bad boy has to offer, and it should be found in the comment section, to be precise, in the description of this video. So if you want to know more, click on that one after the video is over. But it sounds like this. Pay attention to the repetitions in the voice. Will you revive from the chaos in my mind? Very cool, right? I love this plugin, it's so cool. Now, the next stage in this is basically just showing you that most of the effects that I already showed you are being shared by all of the different elements of my vocal recording. Why is that? Well, because this is one of the ways to make sure that your mix sounds band together, like it belongs and it's part of the same performance, is by sharing some of the parallel effects, especially time-based effects, because those allow you to create a sense of depth and that the music is being played inside of the same room, if that makes sense. It gives that sense of togetherness, for lack of a better term. So the issue is that you got some of these details, for example here, and the song is filled with those. Let me just zoom out, and you will see that you got fancy 1, fancy 2, and fancy some. And that's due, and harmonies. That's due to the fact that the song is extremely layered when it comes to the vocals. One of those is this section here. That particular phrase was one of the hardest things for me to find a proper spot for it in the mix, because it has to feel far enough but not super far, if that makes sense to you. And I got it by, well, using copious amounts of reverb on it. Now you got the harmony, and this is actually fun. Listen to this. Harmony and main vocals. Like the morning star and the rising sun, you convey my life. Here, the backing vocals, the harmony, it changes positions. It goes from a really high register to a low register in the second half of the phrase. That's actually cool. But it makes the entire mixing process harder, because, well, now you have to be clever in the way that you use your equalizer. And as you can see here, I stick to my guns, and I like to keep using my SSL sound. And this is the approach that I end up using, cutting off some of the mid-range, some of the low mids as well, but pushing a good chunk the highs, allowing the sound of the harmony to fit in. But how to make sure that it doesn't clash with the sound of the main vocals? Automation. And you can see there's tons and tons of automation throughout the track. I know it's kind of bothersome and it's boring, but it's stuff that makes a difference. And also you got here, and this is actually something funky that happened. You hear, let me show you this. When I finish off the tracking, I realized that I forgot to record this guy, Fancy 4. And since I was in a hurry, I had to re-record it using the very same setup that I'm using right now to record this video. I recorded that vocal take in this room using the shotgun microphone that I use for video production. Look at that. But it turned out well, and actually that's actually a good technique. Not using this guerrilla style approach, but when tracking backing vocals, it's always better, and it has gave me better results tracking those backing vocals using a different array of microphone and preamps, because it's already adding a different sense of color, and it's adding already the diversity to the sound, if that makes sense. Because when you record everything using the same microphone and the same signal chain, kind of gives you those issues that everything sounds the same, and it's kind of hard for you to find those spots. But using different microphones and different signal pads always yields a much diverse sound, which helps you to make the song better. So pro tip there. Now, final stage. This guy was actually fun to mix, because after I did my EQing, and you can see that I even work with my compressor a bit, I needed to make sure that both of them were properly bound together, and I used this bad boy. This is the Rockruepel Comp 2, and this is a great sounding compressor. And one of the reasons why I picked this bad boy, it's because you can set it to dual mono without having to go fancy with the routing on your DAW, or using any of the dual mono versions of the plugins. This is built in. And well, I used and have different parameters to control both of those signals in an independent fashion. Look at this. With it. The reason why I use this bad boy is because since it's split into two mono signals and summed up as a stereo pair, you won't be triggering the compression on one side using the signal coming from the other. So it's triggered by its own, making sure that both of those signals are properly compressed. And it sounds like this. Nice, right? Very cool. And the final element, and this is the funky part, the flanger that I mentioned at the beginning. This thing, it's amazing. This is a very cool sounding effect, but it's a sound that, don't know, I wasn't expecting it to be part of the mix, but once I paid attention to it, I realized that there was something missing with my vocals, and it was the lack of this flangy effect. Let me show you. It sounds like this, and I actually only applied it to the main vocals, actually. Let me show you. It sounds like this. First with it, and I'm gonna mute the sound of the flange. Here we go. You'll be there waiting by the gates of dawn when I close my eyes forever. You can see that it's very subtle. It's almost invisible to the eye, to the ears. But when I remove it, the sound of the mix, particularly when you listen to it in context, I'm going to bring it back, but as soon as you remove it, you feel that there is something missing in the vocals. It's more about the je ne sais quoi than anything else. It sounds like this. there you have it. So what do you think, girls and boys? Doing these kind of reverse engineering experiments, it's kind of fun and it's extremely challenging because it forces me to pay more attention to the music that I like than I usually do. And that's a rare thing, to be frank. So I learned many things. For example, that thing with flanger never crossed my mind, but now I see that as a very viable option when it comes to mixing music. So I'm gonna be always having that as part of my repertoire of options. Stay tuned because this concept is starting to grow on me, and I think it's gonna become part of the regular production cycles or the regular content produced for this channel, so keep an eye open for those. Now, girls and boys, the only thing left is if you wanna support this kind of content and making sure that it's still released for free, the best way to do it is by liking, subscribing, leaving a comment, and of course, following us on social media such as Instagram and X, because that's the best way for you to get in touch with us in a much more personal basis. And of course, if you want to support these efforts even further by listening to music on Apple Music or Spotify, that it's the way for you to do it. Now, girls and boys, as every single time that I meet you, I gotta remind you that you should never let anybody tell you what to dream about. I remember that I will see you when I see you.